Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women. Ever.
That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash.
The media, woke billionaires, and agenda-driven pundits believe they can keep pushing lies unchallenged. Wrong. From Mark Cuban's cheap shots at conservative women to Elon Musk dismantling biased reporters in real time, the truth is hitting back harder than ever. Mark Cuban thought he could take a cheap shot at Trump supporters, especially women, and not start a controversy? The mainstream media thought they could get away by presenting baseless narratives and not getting attacked by facts. Well, that wasn't the case both of the times. It all started when Mark Cuban made the bold claim that Trump never surrounds himself with strong, intelligent women.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women. Ever.
A cheap shot? Absolutely. The tidal wave of backlash that followed. Cue the conservative women. They didn't just push back, they obliterated Cuban's narrative. One woman fired back, which of Melania Trump's 5 languages would Mark Cuban like to discuss with her?
President Trump surrounds himself with, first of all, his beautiful wife, Melania. Which of the 5 languages that she speaks would Mark Cuban like to have a conversation about him?
Another pointed out, if you're a healthcare worker, a teacher, or even a US military member supporting Trump, Cuban thinks you're weak and stupid.
So if you are a healthcare provider, if you are a school teacher, if you are a US military member, and you are a woman and a Trump supporter, then to Mark Cuban, you are stupid.
But here's the kicker. The same crowd that can't even define what a woman is now suddenly experts on which women count as strong and intelligent. Hypocrisy much? And it wasn't just conservative pundits who took offense. J.D. Vance didn't just respond to Mark Cuban's insults, he dismantled it with precision. At a rally, Vance proudly introduced his wife, Usha, the Yale Law graduate and accomplished professional, noting how Cuban's remarks were not only offensive, but patently false. "Mark, my wife is way out of your league," Vance quipped, delivering a line that brought the crowd to its feet.
Well, Mark, you know, my wife is way out of your league, so is...
But he didn't stop there. He pointed out that Melania Trump, a multilingual former model, and Susie Wiles, a past campaign, are far from the caricatures Cuban tried to paint.
So is Melania Trump, by the way, so is Susie Wiles, who's running the Trump campaign.
Vance then turned his fire on Cuban's real intentions: distraction. He said Cuban and Kamala Harris can't defend their record, so they insult people instead.
So I wish that Mark Cuban and Kamala Harris and their entire campaign stopped insulting the people they disagreed with. And
he called for them to debate Harris's actual failures rather than rely on cheap shots. The crowd roared as Vance highlighted how Cuban's comments weren't just about Trump. They were an insult to every conservative woman, from military personnel to teachers. Vance's message was clear. Mark Cuban can throw insults, but he can't handle the facts. While Mark Cuban, a billionaire, could face the heat, how can a reporter not? Enter Dana White, who gave a masterclass in media takedowns during the UFC press conference. When a reporter tried to corner White about UFC fighters making homophobic or transphobic comments,
when they are up there with the UFC microphone and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia, like...
Dana's response was swift and brutal. There are no leashes here. Free speech, brother.
Give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
I'm like...
Free speech.
White wasn't just defending his fighters. He was making a broader point.
Probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want and they can believe whatever they want.
In a world where speech is increasingly policed, he stood firm. Free speech isn't about protecting comfortable ideas. It's about defending the uncomfortable ones. The reporter left speechless and scrambling to move on. While Dana White's exchange was a fiery defense of unfiltered free speech, the next debate took a more surgical approach. Here is Jordan Peterson, whose calm yet relentless takedown of weak arguments was a showcase of intellectual precision. The viral showdown between Jordan Peterson, a Canadian psychologist, and Channel 4's Kathy Newman. Peterson, a loyal defender of free speech, found himself in the crosshairs over his refusal to comply with forced speech laws in Canada. Newman accused him of prioritizing his right to offend over the dignity of others. Peterson's response was legendary.
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive.
In order to think, you have to risk being offensive. Peterson turned the tables, pointing out that Newman herself was risking offending him by digging into his beliefs. Why should you have the right to do that? He asked.
Conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Newman, visibly flustered, admitted, "You got me."
Ha, gotcha.
You have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head.
The debate highlighted a critical truth. Open dialogue means being willing to confront uncomfortable ideas, even if it offends. Peterson then clarified that he had never disrespected a student's pronouns, contrary to his critics' accusations. His stand wasn't about individuals, but about opposing authoritarian language laws. "I'm not transphobic," he stated.
I'm not transphobic, and that isn't what I said.
"I'm against ceding linguistic territory to radical ideologues."
What I said at the beginning was that I was not going to cede the linguistic territory to radical leftists.
The conversation reached another peak point, with Peterson explaining how identity politics shares the same dangerous roots as totalitarian regimes like Mao's in China. The outcome? Another media figure exposed for pushing narratives instead of facts.
That's the fundamental philosophy that drove the Soviet Union and Maoist China. And it's the fundamental philosophy of the left-wing activists. It's identity politics.
Shooting straight facts and making the opponent accept their mistake can be seen as a win, but perhaps the most brutal takedown came from none other than Elon Musk. In a live interview with BBC, a journalist tried, and failed, to corner Musk on hate speech and misinformation on Twitter. The journalist claimed he'd seen an increase in hateful content. Musk's response? Name one example.
Can you name one example?
Silence. The reporter fumbled, admitting he couldn't cite a single instance. Musk didn't let up. "You just lied. You claimed there was more hate speech, but you can't give a single example. That's absurd."
You just lied.
What? Not getting
You literally said you experienced more hateful content and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
And when the reporter tried pivoting to COVID misinformation, Musk flipped the script. Does the BBC hold itself accountable for its false COVID reporting?
Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations?
What about the pressure from the British government to change your editorial policy? The journalist, clearly outmatched, muttered, "This isn't an interview about the BBC."
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you thought it wasn't?
Exactly. Musk exposed the media's double standard in real time, and they couldn't handle it. These moments aren't just entertaining, they're essential. They reveal a media class that's no longer interested in truth, but about controlling narratives. Whether it's Mark Cuban insulting millions of women, or journalists pushing false narratives, the pattern is clear. They hate being challenged. From J.D. Vance and Dana White to Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk, the tide seems to turn. What do you think? Are we finally seeing the beginning of the end for media hypocrisy? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more hard-hitting content.